This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Welcome to INC Radio South Central State Satellite Studio. I'm your host for today, Brother Nathan Russell, in a different studio format, obviously, our home studio, because joining me today is my very own wife. So go introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everybody. I'm Melanie Russell. I am one of the secretaries and deaconesses at the local congregation at Fort Worth/Cleburne GWS.
Yes, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And here in Fort Worth, it is very stormy right now. We were supposed to have an activity earlier today, a family walk, sponsored by the CMDPS. It's going to be pushed off, I believe, until tomorrow. Hopefully, the weather is nice for those of you conducting the family walk, and also the Mr. and Mrs. Chef trail mix edition. So we made some trail mix, and hopefully we win. But today's show is not about the weather or about food or walking. We are talking about career journeys. This is one of my favorite topics because I like to show the youth, especially, that there is more than one way to have a successful career in life, and that your career in life may not necessarily take a conventional route that you may be that we may have in mind. Just go to college and get your job and live happily ever after. It can take all sorts of twists and turns. So, of course, you can take a look at those shows on YouTube. Just search South Central, INC Radio, South Central States, my career journey, and I have several of those interviews with those brethren. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and drop the question of the day into the chat. Oh, looks like I already have it. And that is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And of course, if you're already grown up, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up? And I'll go ahead and start with you. So, when you were in school, what did you want to be when you grow up?
When I was in school, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, just like my dad. I always thought his career was so fascinating and interesting.
Okay. So, what were your main interests in school, in grade school?
So I was very interested in science. I excelled in science, especially in biology when I was in high school. So I always had the best grades in those classes.
So, did you ever dissect the frog in school?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
did.
I could not stomach it, which is why I never pursued anything having to do with like biology. I could not um, survive a day. I could not keep my lunch down. But okay, so you're really into the sciences. What sciences in particular do you like?
So in high school, I enjoyed biology. But later on in college, I studied a pre med course, and there was a lot of science classes in those in that course. And so I my favorite was microbiology. um, and also organic chemistry. I know some people hate it, but I enjoyed it, even though it was really challenging.
Now, let's go back a second. So, when you finished high school, this was not here in the United States.
That is correct. I actually graduated from the New Era University,
Yeah, the high school,
the
though.
high school, the
Yeah, the
high
high school,
school.
New Era. So, those who aren't familiar, the New Era University is the university of our church. It's the Iglesia ni Cristo, the Church of Christ. So, you went to the high school there. Interesting fact: in the Philippines, they don't graduate when they're 18, do they?
That's correct. Although up until recently, we would go through elementary and then straight to high school. There's no middle school. So after you finish sixth grade, you go straight into high school. But a few years ago, they did go into the K through 12 structure, just like we have here.
So, you graduated when you were 16 and straight into college.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Now, this comes into play later on when we talk about your career because you'd be one of the youngest in that particular career field. So, all right, so you're in college. What did you say your strengths were in college?
Well, in high school and in college, I excelled in science.
And what was your major in college?
So when I went into college, I went to the University of the Philippines, and my major was a pre-med course, public health.
Public health. Okay. So we'll see if that kind of plays into your future career. It kind of does. It kind of doesn't. Okay. So you graduate college. How old were you when you graduated college?
So we have to talk about my age.
Well, this was
Um,
back then, not that long
okay,
ago.
so my
Not
current
that long
age
ago.
is going to be classified, but back then I graduated um, at 20.
At 20. See, I graduated, I think a little late. I took maybe an extra semester or two, and I graduated at 23, and that's supposed to be about normal. You graduated 20, so you're very young for a college graduate. So after college, where did life take you?
So, like you said earlier, life, you always get twists and turns in life. And when I first started college is when my family received our green card. So I was going to be on this path going into medical school. And at that time, we received our green card. That kind of changed things a little bit because after college, I came over to the United States with zero job experience, and I was still really trying to find myself and what I wanted to do. I was still figuring things out at the time, so I didn't know my current job. It was not my plan A or my plan B or plan C even. So
Okay, so what was your first job when you came here to the States?
I actually worked as a cashier at a sporting goods retail store. So I was helping sell, apparel and footwear and all sorts of things.
Okay, so then what? Did you take up any other jobs, or did you kind
Yes,
of bounce around?
a few months after I started being a cashier, I actually worked in a wholesaler that sells natural stones for example, countertops and things of that nature, flooring. So I had to be familiar with the inventory. So if I walk into somebody's kitchen right now, I'd be able to recall, oh, I remember this particular granite or marble was in this tier or that tier, and the names and everything.
Okay, so you're kind of bouncing along in kind of like odd jobs here and there.
Correct.
Nothing really related to public health. Did you have any other career aspirations? Where did we go next?
Well, at the time, I was considering furthering my education. I wanted to get a master's in public health. But while I was working at my first job, I met someone who actually worked at a school. And he told me, it's like, there's this career that you can maybe look into that requires you to only work 187 days out of the year. And so I thought, if I'm off in the summer and the spring and all that, I could travel, I could still get my master's, I could probably work. So I looked into it. And so I tried that route.
Okay, yeah, that story sounds familiar. I think I was the one that told you, right?
No, actually had a coworker tell me about
Oh,
it.
your coworker.
Yeah,
Okay, I know. I had given you some advice.
you did, and I did seek out your advice after I heard about uh, this program through my coworker.
So, what program are we talking about?
So I know a lot of people who go into education, they study uh, for that, right? Some people get a teaching degree, but I took what's called an alternative route, an alternative certification program, which there are quite a few of them here in Texas, and I'm sure other states as well. So what that involves is you take some courses. Depending on the program, there's going to be different requirements, but for the most part, it involves going over what are the best practices that's going to help you in the classroom. So I went through that, and I was able to get a list of classes that I'd be able to teach if I take the content exam.
Okay, and I did the similar route because I was a teacher before. I went through alternative certification, and I want kind of a plug for that for those who don't live in Texas. If you wanted to become a teacher in Texas, okay, um, I know in other states they're very strict about the requirements. Like some states require a master's degree in order to teach in their state, or you have to have a degree in education. Now, I did not have a degree in education. I had my degree in mathematics. So, what alternative certification does, it kind of help fill the classroom with teachers, with professionals. So, if you had a degree in a particular field, if you had a certain number of credits, then the alternative certification would kind of fill in the education aspect of that. So, for those who may be considering teaching, who don't have a teaching career, it is a way to be able to become a teacher here in Texas, at least. I don't know if other states have alternative certification paths, but just as a plug to, maybe if you want to come over here to Texas, then that is a career path that you can pursue. So, all right, let's get back to that, the alternative certification process. And okay, so you're jumping into that. How did you prepare uh, for that?
Honestly, it didn't take a lot of preparation at all. I just needed to be able to attend a few of the in person classes, but most of them I did online. And it was very flexible. I was able to find time, even as I was working full time, to complete the requirements that I needed.
And then there's also a test you have to take, correct?
Correct. Oh, yeah. I did have to study for that a little bit, but because I wanted to teach science specifically, it was it's fairly easy. So you can take different content exams, but I chose science because that's what I wanted to teach.
And how long is the alternative certification process?
That actually depends on the person. I know of some who have completed it in 2 weeks. I took about a couple of months because like I said before, I did have a job at the time. I was working full time, so I had to do the classes at night or on the weekends.
And then you complete the alternative certification program, and then you get your job as a teacher almost immediately, don't you?
Correct. There's a need for teachers even now. There's a shortage, and it's one of those careers that I think is recession proof. Even if the economy is not doing very well, there's going to be classrooms that need teachers. So the program that I signed up for, it's great for both parties. It's in their interest to help you get certified and get hired because part of that um, program or the fees involved for that program only you pay for only part of it up front and then you pay the rest in that during that first year that you are hired. So they do help you get hired, so they give you a lot of resources and get you contact information for different districts that you can apply for. And so it didn't take very long for me to get hired, and I was able to pick from a couple of different campuses as well as a first year teacher.
Okay, we're going to pause real quick because we do have some comments and some greetings I'd like to read out. So, from our brother Victor Novello, he's greeting us. Hello to everyone from the local of Blue Ridge, which is, of course, the northern part of Dallas, north of Dallas. And then we have our brother Christian Agron, our district CFO overseer, greeting us. Hello from the local of Dallas, hashtag South Central States. Thank you for joining us here today. And also on the 24-hour link, we have let's see, Faye Salas watching from Palermo, GWS, Italy South. I hope I said that right. But she's also greeting us happy viewing. All right, so teaching. That I know for a lot of people, and I brought this up, it's very intimidating to think like, oh, I could never be a teacher. Like the kids can be, especially nowadays, are unruly and all the standards and all the stress. So, and you were well of that. It, how did you kind of overcome that to wanting to become a teacher? Like, what were your motivations for wanting to teach?
Well, it was one career that I only considered because I actually wanted to pursue a master's degree. So I actually didn't know if I was going to like it or not. My only motivation was I wanted to get started in something that I'm going to see if I like it or not. Luckily, I fell in love with teaching and I ended up staying, which is why it's so great that I went through the alternative certification route and not the get a degree in education. Because if you do that and you ended up not liking it after a year or two, it makes you less marketable in the job market.
Right. And I found that like through the year, the school year, they kind of go over all the things that they go over in an education degree. A lot of the ways, that you should teach, the psychology part of it. I'm mincing my words, but yeah, they go over all of that, all of those things that you learn in an education degree. They keep reinforcing that with teachers throughout the year. So yeah, I do see alternative certification as a viable path. It's not like you're any less of a teacher. You're not going to be any ill equipped. In fact, I myself became a teacher team leader, and you did too, didn't you?
Correct. I did serve as a science department chairperson for about a year before they restructured our leadership model.
And how many years have you been teaching? Because this is a very impressive feat.
So I'm about to finish up my 13th year in education. So I spent 5 years of that teaching biology in inner city school in Houston. I spent another year in another campus before I moved here in Fort Worth. And right now, I'm about to wrap up my 8th year in a 6th through 12th campus here in Grand Prairie.
And what would you say is the hardest part about being a teacher?
Well, the hardest part is figuring out a way to engage and motivate students who don't want to be there. So, a lot of my students, especially as I was starting out as a teacher, they didn't have support at home. They were just told to go there because they're kids and that's what you're supposed to do, but they didn't have support at home. They weren't encouraged or motivated. So, that was probably the hardest part of being an educator at the time.
Now, what about the perks of being a teacher? Because there are many.
Well, I love that satisfaction of knowing that you helped shape a student's future. And especially for those who don't have that support at home, you provided that safe, positive environment for them that maybe they don't have at home. Also, I do enjoy the summers off. If you have a family and if you're very busy with church duties, education is one of those professions where you will be able to have some time to yourself and your family and your duties. So the summers, the winters, the spring break, all of the federal and bank holidays, I get all of those off. So that's something that I enjoy.
So, is it true that throughout the whole summer, you're getting paid the whole time also?
That is correct. So we get a 10-month contract, which means so we're just working for a certain amount of the days of the year, but our pay gets put into an account that you've earned, but you haven't been paid. Now, some teachers opt to just get paid for those 10 months and just save that money throughout uh, the year for the summer. But for me, I don't worry about it. My paychecks still come in even when I'm off.
And I'm also thinking, okay, for those who are considering getting into teaching, teaching has kind of gotten the reputation of being a low paying career. And I know, especially in Florida, when I was looking into teaching, it was a very low paying career. Like, why would anyone do this career for that much money? But in Texas, the cities at least, that is not the case. Would you agree?
I will agree, especially if you're in the DFW complex. My district,
We won't mention any numbers, but
right? No, we're not.
I
It's
I
very
w-
competitive.
I would say if you were coming out of college, you're on par with pretty much every other professional that I can think of. The
Mm.
the starting pay for a teacher. You can
The
look it up for
difference
yourself.
is
Yeah.
the difference is you're not working the whole year. Your salary is for the 10 months of the year that you're working. So if you wanted to, you could supplement that, although I've never felt the need to do that as an educator, especially since we do have a two income household. So it's been good.
All right. We have a few more comments I'd love to read. So from Michael Guerrero, greetings to all the brethren in South Central States watching from Northwest California. Thank you for joining us. We also have our sister Julie from Fort Worth also greeting us. Let's see, Brother Christian Agron, he went from military to nursing to the ministry. And I also interviewed him sometime last year. I can't find the show though, and I can't find the title. We didn't title the shows very well back then, but it was also a very great episode if you could find it. We also have a greeting to our brother Mike Guerrero. Happy belated birthday. Brother Victor Novello says, "Thank you so much, Sister Melanie, for sharing us your journey. And good job, Brother Nate." We have from L. Martin, "I have a friend who was an engineer and he wanted to be a high school teacher. Alternative certification is how he got there. It took him about 2 months total. It really does depend on the person." And then we have our sister Alex Dayrit. "Love seeing the Russells together." And you kind of, Sister Alex, you kind of had some influence on her career, didn't you? Let's see. We also have our brother Victor Novello. Listening to this is making me reminisce on my own life experiences and journey, how I did all of it with God's mercy and guidance. Praise be to God. And brother Michael Guerrero says, "Thank you, Christian." Brother Victor brings up a very interesting point because when I was trying to look for my career, coming out of school, I had no prospects for like half a year. And then it just dawned on me like, I really love being a math tutor. Well, why don't I go ahead and try out this math teaching? Uh, Let me see if I can do it. And so I was searching for the schools, and that's how I found the alternative certification. And that's how I ended up in Texas, which I feel like this is where I was meant to be. Okay, so back to your career and teaching. So you're still a teacher currently, correct?
That is correct.
And you'll be teaching next year, correct?
I signed my contract for next year, yes.
But, and according to today's title, because it goes from
Cashier.
cashier to real estate, this is where we come to the next part of your career, your next path of your career, and that is real estate. So, where did that start?
What happened around year 10, maybe year 11, was I started wondering, okay, I really enjoy teaching. I enjoy it, but I started thinking about what else could I do? What else is out there for me? So that question has been lingering in the back of my head for the last few years. And so a few months ago, I did a Google search. I said, what do teachers do once they're done teaching in the classroom? And real estate was one of the top three on that list, or in the list that I encountered. So back in November, I looked at what are the requirements for becoming a real estate agent here in Texas. And I started to pursue that route at the same time that I'm still teaching.
So, how far along are you with this real estate career?
I finished the course a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, and then I took the license exam not long after that. And so right now, I passed the test. Now I'm just looking for a brokerage. So I'm timing it just right though, because there's already brokers that are needing agents who are reaching out. Because as soon as you pass that test, they will reach out. But I want to make sure that I'm in a position to sit with them and talk to them and sign on with them. But right now, I'm still teaching. So I want to do that right at the end of the school year.
Okay, so when you're off in the summer.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, perfect opportunity to test out some new waters. So where do we go from here? So where would you like your career to go?
Well, I'm in a transition period currently. So I'm going to definitely still teach at least one more year. And depending on how this first year as a real estate agent goes, I want to focus on commercial real estate. So depending on how that goes, I'm going to step away from the classroom and do real estate full time.
That would have been 14 full years in the classroom.
Yes.
I lasted 7. And I switched over to data, and I think the average is 3. So you've almost what would you call 5 times the length of most people who pursue teaching. Um, but before we close out, I want to reframe this to the youth. What advice would you give to the youth when it comes to pursuing a career?
Well, my my advice would be to find something that you genuinely enjoy. Um, I know some kids, they think about what their parents want for them, but not necessarily what they want. And remember that it's not about the money all the time. I get that we all have bills to pay, but you really have to find the one that you enjoy and you're passionate about.
Okay. Would you recommend people get into teaching?
Absolutely, but personally, if you pursue that career, be open to others as well. So don't just hyper focus on one path. See for yourself if you like it. It can be very polarizing. Some people love it. I'm one of those people. Some hate it. So it really depends on that person. So,
Okay. Any final shout outs you'd like to give to our audience?
yes, I would like to give a shout out to my big sister. Her name is Lisa. She's been a voice of reason for me for my whole life, really. So throughout school, after college. So thank you.
All right. So we'll go ahead and close out today's show. We would like to thank our district CFO overseer, Brother Christian Agron, our assistant district minister, Brother Gilbert Anachete, our district minister, Brother Andre B. Silva, our executive producer, Brother Emmanuel Andaya, our station manager, Brother Arnel Solano, our CFO coordinator and CEBSI president, Brother Angelo Arano V. Manalo, and of course, our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. So be sure to tune in to INC Radio South Central States next Saturday, same time, 1 p.m. And be sure to stay tuned to INC Radio Latin America coming up next. Adios.